Thank you, Liam. Ladies and gentlemen, and thanks, of course, for the kind invitation to this event. It's important time for this important topic for pension funds. Pensions Europe represents the pension funds around Europe in 25 different countries, around 70 million people, and according to our statistics, already the UK and Dutch pension funds have 2.5 trillion, so it's about 3.5 trillion altogether. Statistics differ from one to the other, but it is important. And we welcome this very open and consultative approach that you, Mr. Hayes, have taken to this topic, and also the Econ Committee in the Parliament. And the open hearing you had, the public hearing you had, and for the committee, and your participation today and in other events, it's really essential that you're open for these kinds of debates. And we, of course, the pension industry are happy to, if we can help in improving or finding solutions, what you are also calling for. We do our best to have the best possible outcomes in a way that actually makes a difference in real life, that we don't just have pieces of paper in legislation that actually nobody can put into practice. So we're happy with the development of things, of the Commission's proposal, how it was debated in the Council, what was the outcome, and the final opinion of the Employment Committee is also very good. And listening to your intervention, it sounds like you have adopted or plan to adopt many of the same important notions as the Employment Committee. So we're quite confident that the outcome of this process will be a good one. So we do welcome the IORP 2 directive proposal, and indeed for the reasons that have been mentioned here, that the world has changed. And with the change towards defined contribution, there is an increasing need to address such issues as good governance, transparency, providing good information, and all in all, the world has changed so that governance issues, for example, are much more important, even without the change to defined contribution, that the last 15 years have witnessed so great disasters in many parts of the world on institutional level, that good governance is, of course, essential. So we support high standards of governance and communication, but then we felt and we see that the Commission's proposal in this respect was too detailed. It was too much of European level harmonization for issues that we do need more flexibility and the good respect of the principle of subsidiarity, that in many of these issues we need a good framework, good principles at European level, but we need to have enough room for the member states, supervisory regulators to put in place rules that make sense, and also for the stakeholders, the employers and employees, to decide within their own competence on rules that make sense. And there is this ongoing notion whether this is financial or whether this is social, and what does that mean? And it's a good question. You said, and we fully agree, that these are first and foremost social institutions. Pension funds are first and foremost social institutions, but they operate actively in the financial markets. And this is about finding the right balance between the European financial market regulation, also European consumer protection legislation, and then respecting the fact that this is subject to national social and labor law. Occupational pensions are often part of the wage policy. Wage policy is not to be regulated by the European Union. It is up to the member states and the social partners who have competence to negotiate and also in many cases to agree with collective agreements on these issues. And that is something that the Employment Committee has put it in their final opinion, that there is a reference to the right of collective bargaining and collective action. So this is really finding the right balance and right understanding that the social institution in this regard means that there is this competence and respect, but doesn't mean that everything can be claimed to be social. There's definitely that's not the intention, but it's finding. But also everything cannot be claimed to be prudential or financial, and thus taking away the competencies that belong to the social partners. But I think we are moving into much better approach and much better outcome during and through these debates and discussions. The current environment is really challenging for pension funds with the low interest rates and quantitative easing and all of this. And of course we would like to see that all the legislation supports that pension funds can, for the short term also, and especially for the longer term, but also for the short term, that they can be sustainable and viable. And we hope that the legislation that is introduced supports this, and also the very important initiatives of the Commission on the Capital Markets Union. We're very supportive of the fact, because we believe that occupational pensions, as any other form of pensions, can only be based on a sound economy. So good growth and employment are important, as noted also by Mr. Nava. So there we are very, very supportive of this. Another big and important development is the changing landscape of supplementary pensions. Pensions Europe represents workplace pensions, so the second pillar, occupational pension, whatever that means, and it's changing rapidly. In addition, the personal pensions are being developed also by European level initiatives, and today, it's my understanding, the EIOPA has launched a consultation on the personal pension products, and that borderlines with the occupational workplace pensions. And it's important to provide good pensions for the people in Europe, good funded pensions in different forms. It's not self-evident that the companies or the individuals are able to take over and compensate for the fact that the Social Security first pillar pensions will be lower. In debates, it's often taken as granted, like stating that the Social Security pensions will be smaller, and then it will be the second and the third pillar that will take over. That doesn't happen automatically. We need to have simple, affordable, good solutions that are possible for the companies and for the individuals. In many cases, in many countries in Europe, occupational workplace pensions are voluntary. If we make it too burdensome, too costly, too complicated, the companies who have an option, they can choose not to provide for these pensions. And as the previous speaker said, the main issue for us and the main goal for us as pension funds is to increase the coverage of these provisions. So that is the main problem. To the question, how much does the IORP 2 proposal help to increase coverage? That's not an easy answer. But I think that if the solutions that are put in place, if the reforms that are taken improve the functioning of the pension funds, of the IORP landscape, then it will be more probable that there will be more supplementary or workplace pension provision. A couple of remarks, specific comments on the role of the social partners. Mario Nava, you said that this is important as an agency question, and supported the professionalism of the governance. Professionalism is important, and it's important that the people who invest other people's money understand what they're doing. In IORPs, in pension funds, it's usually not the other people's money, it's their money. The stakeholders are the ones who are in the governing bodies, so it's their money, they bear the risk, and that should be respected. The agency problems, I think, have been the biggest when you have the best experts running other people's money. In pension funds, you have those who are responsible, who bear the risks, running the scheme. And as these are not listed entities, the price of governance is not in the share prices. The only way to govern this effectively is that you have the main stakeholders who are responsible managing this. And this is the same for cooperatives, this is the same for mutual companies, this is the same for IORPs. And we are happy with the fact that that there is a movement in the Parliament to recognize the value of the social partners. The cross-border scheme issue is important, and there has been a debate whether we need to have full funding at all times or whether we need to harmonize the solvency framework. I think we need to find some middle way, some that functions, some that is possible, and we need to really rethink this and come up with some really good practical solutions. And lastly, the delegated acts are an important issue in this, especially when we emphasize the need to have flexibility, respect the subsidiarity, then we wish that Europe would just legislate on the core important principles and leave enough room for the member states and the social partners to come up with sensible solutions that actually work. And that's why we are very much in favor of limiting or dropping the delegated acts and having the legislators legislate and then leave the rest and the details to others. Thank you very much.